Well, good evening everybody. I hope we are live. Just going to check the watch page and make sure. In the meantime, if we are live, I'll say a few hellos. Truth prevails. Ian Metterson. Oh yes, we are live indeedy. Let's check that I've got my mic on. Yes, I have. Carolyn Gutman Day, Secret Asian Man. Ian Adams, James Mason, F.E. Vader, drone giveaway next, who knows? Ryan Etherton, Lottie Says, 9-inch Nails, The Plain Truth, Robert Leger, and Cleary. Arwin, hello as well, and Ragnar Stafford Hallardson. Good evening, everybody. Well, as you can tell by the stream, I don't have any guests this evening. In fact, it'll just be me. And it'll probably be a rather short stream, I would imagine, today, maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes at most, perhaps. Something like that. Ian Adams 1 minute late. I can't be perfect every time, what can I say? Ryan Etherton was watching Riley on the street with some scholarly individuals. Indeed, I saw that too. It was mirrored by Red Pill Philosophy too, so go and check that out. Good evening, Gerhard Seleg. And UK Truth. Good evening, everybody. And Paul Keeling, nice to see you in. Right, so we have currently just 24 watching. However, I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of things that I want to discuss. The Coriolis effect and a P900 giveaway. So I will be giving away my P900. So somebody will be the beneficiary of that later this month. Brian Stavely, nice to see you in too. So, P900, let's have a look, see. Let's see if I can get this out of its case and show you guys. So, this, sand and all, Blackpool sand, look at that. It comes with all the mod cons, Blackpool sand, Blackpool seawater, everything you can expect on a second-hand and used P900. Still operational though, and still works absolutely perfectly fine. Look at this. Oh yes. So, essentially, this was the camera that I bought on my after just a week or so of looking into flat Earth. And what happened? I decided to, without actually knowing the community or anything, was just decided what would be the best zoom camera to do these observations and tests. Now, no, Ian Adams, don't give it to Jose. Okay, well, the thing was, I forget how long ago it was now, 2.5 years, something like that, maybe something like that. And I looked into the flat Earth, and I thought, what can I do to prove it to myself? And I just thought, well, the best thing I can do to try and prove this to myself is get a camera and go check it out for myself, because where I live, there's plenty of things that I can observe and do the quote-unquote curve calculator on and see for myself, because essentially there should always be a hump of water between me and an object if we're looking over water. And obviously, all these beautiful images that I've captured with this P900 or last year on Nathan Oakley's channel, Nathan Oakley 1980. So I was on his streams daily, essentially, going out in the morning, skipping off work, filming the beautiful flatness in and around where I live, and returning home for his 2 p.m. show and showing all the beautiful flatness that we have there. Let's see if I can get an image up. Let's have a look. See, this is, well, this isn't one of the beautiful flatness images, but essentially this'll do. This image of a setting sun, absolutely glorious. I took this from St. Bees when I was there with Anthony Riley. Absolutely glorious. I have a full set of this this sunset with obviously the real sun up here and the Fresnel lens effect kind of thing that's bulging out this apparent sun at the bottom, you know, not the real sun. There's the real sun right at the top. Anyway, absolutely glorious. It's a beautiful camera, easy to hold. It's got some great zoom. The quality of the image is pretty crisp, I have to say. And anyway, so I'm giving that away this evening. So who else do we have in? New and old. Well, I'm backpacking for 3 months. Sorry, in 3 months, for 6 months straight, and he will take it. Thanks very much, New and Old, but I do have somebody else that I wish to give this to. Who else have we got? F.E. Vader, how's the wife? Absolutely fine, thank you very much. George Netanyahu, will this Coriolis nonsense ever end? Well, funny you should bring that up, so let's have a little look at this. So, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Coriolis force in football stadiums always deflects field goals to the right. East for north kicks and west for south kicks. Now then, this is from, obviously, Neil deGrasse Tyson. And if you all know who that guy is, he has 13.5 million followers and he's an astrophysicist. Essentially, he's the go-to guy for the globe if you want to believe in anything that the globe has to put forth. So when he says that Coriolis forces always deflect field goals to the right, east for the north and west for the south, you've got to take that quite kind of seriously, because this guy's your holy grail, and this is what he says. It's interesting too that I did a couple of live streams, maybe 3 live streams actually, with George Netanyahu, and the Rumpus came on for one of them. And in one of those, one of the people in the chat sent me this link through an email. And it reads, this is from skybrary.aero, so .aero. As an aircraft travels from A to B around the globe, it actually will follow a curved path, or a series of shorter curved paths. An INS will detect this as turning, a bit like a pendulum swinging out in a turn, and an error can be introduced. So, essentially, again, Coriolis apparently has an effect on aircraft too. Now, if we go to George Netanyahu, let's see if we can make sure the volume's up on that, and we're going to play one of his clips from one of his presentations that he did on my show. So here we go.
That aside, if all of a sudden a plane is flying, and if he, say, is aimed, he has a heading aimed at that target the instant he left your airport here, Ranty, he's going to miss it. He also has Coriolis subjected to him. That hasn't changed. The bullet, the plane, has Coriolis subjected to it. But the difference is that the plane is in powered flight, it has control surfaces, and the pilot can correct for that. And the amount of correction is very, very slight. I have some numbers to show you that. Suppose you're flying. You're up in the air, you've just lifted off, you're here, you have this tangential component, and you're sighting the target. Well, what are you going to do as the pilot? Suppose you see a large tower 100 miles away, very, very, very tall tower, or a mountain peak. You're going to keep your heading. You make these adjustments. You're just aiming your plane to that mountain as you're flying, but
okay, so enough of that one. We essentially get the point there, that powered flight can control your heading. In other words, you have Coriolis forces working with the Earth turning underneath you. The Earth is turning underneath you, and you correct your plane, since it's a powered flight, to account for that. As you know, Neil deGrasse Tyson says, as this Coriolis reference from this .aero site says too. So essentially, we're all saying this. They're all saying the same thing, that Coriolis happens when you're on a plane. However, you can change your heading to account for that. my obvious question to that would be, well, wouldn't it be just easier to set a different heading, to just sort of like aim 15 degrees off target and wait for the Earth to catch up to you and meet you at your destination? To me, that would make more sense than constantly correcting for Coriolis. Let's have a look at another one. This would be the rumpus.
Right speed, it's stationary with respect to the centre of the Earth, and therefore it would find itself being subjected to a 1,000 mile an hour wind, and obviously that would make it quickly pick it up and get it and accelerate it to the relevant velocity. But of course you can't do that. You do everything by going very gradually over a period of 10 hours down to the equator, and during that process you gradually pick up, with this tiny acceleration, you gradually pick up the tangential velocity brought about by the rotation speed of the atmosphere. It's very, very simple. And
what happens if you turn around and go back to the North Pole? Are you telling me that the molecules in the air slow the plane down?
Yeah, yes, exactly, because on the way back you will have this 1,000 miles an hour, and you'll gradually find. So, for instance, let's suppose I've got this aeroplane here.
No, you will have just a yes or a no, rumpus.
Yes, okay.
Yeah,
well, just say.
Think about it this way, Randy.
I've got it very quick to do it. So you've got, when you're down here, you've got this big vector here, this big 1,000 miles an hour, and up here, just up here, you will have the wind speed will be like, will be here. So in other words, if you move your aeroplane, you're going here, you're effectively going to have a relative velocity of, if I was to transport this aeroplane from here to here, it would have this huge velocity, but the velocity of the air around it would be this. So in other words, it would suddenly have acquired a 500 mile an hour difference in speed. And obviously the wind, if the aeroplane was subjected to a 500 mile an hour side wind, that's going to slow it down. It's going to reduce its tangential velocity just as it was increased. So yes, the answer is a very simple yes, and it is very easy to understand. Should be.
Could you?
Okay, and lastly we have this one ready to play, so just bear with me.
We in Britain now, when anybody does anything like this,
I think what most of the audience really want to know is, does the Earth turn under the plane?
Well, no, it turns with the plane. Remember, this is Nathan gets confused about this. He keeps on talking about things turning underneath one another. That is defined by your relative speed. So, for instance, if you're walking at 5 miles an hour on the equator, you're moving 5 miles an hour with respect to the Earth. It doesn't turn under the what do you talk about turning underneath you? That's defined by your relative velocity. So, if you're doing 200 miles an hour, you have a 200 mile an hour relative velocity of the Earth. The Earth doesn't do extra turning. That is your relative velocity. So when you go up towards the pole, as I said, the atmosphere is in lockstep with the Earth, and so it blows on you and gradually increases or reduces your tangential velocity, just like any wind would. Because the airplane's a dirty, great big thing, and it's got this wind. It only needs to be a very slight wind, as I gave you the numbers. It's really tiny. As every second, it only has to change its velocity tangentially, very, very, very slightly, and you won't even notice it. It's much less than the waft of a wind is what it will have an effect on you. It's much less than the waft of a very tiny breeze.
Okay, so that to me was a slightly different answer. That was more of the Earth turns with the plane kind of thing. So the problem that flat earthers have, and I'll tell you now, it's this lack of cohesion in the argument from the globe side. With the rumpus just explaining here that the 200 mile, if you're going at 200 miles an hour and the Earth is traveling at 200 miles an hour, essentially there is no Coriolis. Well, there is no movement between you relative to the Earth. But then we have citations from over here and from George Netanyahu himself, who says that powered flight can correct for the Coriolis, and Neil deGrasse Tyson saying this too, that field goals will always deflect to the right. From a flat earther's standpoint, there's no cohesion in the argument. Now, let's just be clear, right? The Coriolis effect is not the Earth turning. That isn't the Coriolis effect. I'll make that quite clear. Because it isn't the Earth turning. What actually happens is you as the observer see an effect. That is it. You see an effect, right? So you're on the Earth looking up at a plane, and if there was Coriolis effect, you would see the plane take a curved path, right? That would be Coriolis effect. The thing is that the Coriolis effect has been hijacked to believe that it's actually representative of the Earth turning. In fact, you can Google, let's have a look, see if we can Google that. Google. So let's have a look. Coriolis effect. So if I type in the Coriolis effect, the first thing that comes up is all this imagery of Earth turning. You know, and it's like, this isn't the case. This, you know, it's nothing to do with Earth turning. You can see Coriolis on anything that's moving in a different reference frame to you. You can envisage that Coriolis effect. It has nothing to do with Earth turn. So let's make sure that we beat that out of the globe narrative, because the Coriolis effect is nothing to do with the Earth turning, right? That's a simple fact. What we have here is we have, as I say, we've had different points of view here, that the Earth turns with the plane, and we've had George Netanyahu saying that you have to correct for Coriolis effect if you're in a powered flight. Same with Neil deGrasse Tyson about these kicks and stuff. So to me, I want to nail it down from the globe side. Exactly what is this supposed effect on the observer? Because I've filmed many planes. I've looked up at many planes. I have never seen a curved plane trajectory, ever. And I would imagine that if you got in a plane, and what they're saying here is that you can correct for Coriolis. So essentially, you could test this out. You could set your heading to a different heading and just fly a plane. Take all these sophisticated navigational systems offline and just fly it. Just fly the plane in a straight line and see where you end up. You know, that's my feeling on this, is that we don't observe Coriolis effect on planes. We don't observe it on anything as in relation to any kind of Earth turn. But we are told that this effect is real. We can see it on footballs. We can see it on planes. We have to account for it in planes. You know, and we just don't observe that as flat earthers. So I think it's more on the globe side now to actually go out and prove this, and prove exactly what they're trying to say. Hire a plane, or if you know a pilot, Wolf is a pilot, you know, let's see if he can do something with this. You know, let's see what we can do as a community working together to prove this Coriolis effect. Because if Neil deGrasse Tyson says it affects a football, then it should affect a plane, as said with George Netanyahu before. Anyway, essentially that's really my thoughts on the Coriolis effect, which is that we don't observe it, and you only observe it because that is the effect. It's not the cause. You know, Earth turn isn't the cause of the Coriolis effect. A Coriolis effect can be observed on anything. We just don't see it ever. Nobody ever sees it. Okay. I don't understand Coriolis. Good job. Yes, I do. Right, so here we go. So the football stadium example, right? So the guy that kicks the football and the posts never change. They stay relative to the kicker. Those posts stay absolutely exactly where he saw them. What Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying is that the football, as it is not attached to the Earth, as the Earth rotates underneath the ball, from the observer's point of view, i.e. the kicker's point of view, the football will go to the right, east when you kick to the north, and west when you kick to the south. That is what he is saying. So the only thing that's changing in those of those three things, the person that kicks the ball, the field goals, and the football, it's the football that appears to deviate, because it is going in a straight line, but relative to the earth, which is supposedly turning, i.e. the person kicking the ball and the posts, that is moving. So from the kicker's point of view, he needs to aim for a different position and a different place to actually make sure the ball goes through the actual goals. It's just ridiculous. But, you know, I don't think they teach this in NFL. I don't think they teach it in football. I don't think they teach it anywhere, really. I don't think they actually teach this, that you have to account for Coriolis when you actually kick the football. I might be wrong, you know, and I'll hold my hands up. You know, if somebody's going to go out and prove that there's a coach out there teaching, let's say, rugby players that they must account for Coriolis when they kick the football, I would love to see that information, genuinely. Show it me, email it me, ranty@rantyflatearth.com. Get me in touch with the guy that can prove this, that these trainers, these coaches, tell their kickers to account for Coriolis force when they actually kick the ball, right? This is the problem that we have. We have this misinformation everywhere, right? There's misinformation in everything. Earth turns, planes, bullets, all this kind of stuff. You know, we need some clarity, and it can be figured out. I proposed to George that if you went to, well, let's say where I live, let's say somewhere in the UK, and you was to shoot south and you was to shoot north, if you was shooting at 1500 feet per second, the bullet was traveling at 1500 feet per second, and it went half a mile, it would deviate by 6 inches. Now, if you're facing north and and you line your sights up and you correct for Coriolis, and then you turn around and you face south, your bullet should miss the target by 12 inches. That's what should happen, right? That is what should happen. So if that's true, I would like somebody with a gun, with a rifle, that can shoot a bullet traveling at 1500 feet per second, to shoot north, then to shoot south. You know, when you shoot north, obviously it will get it absolutely pristinely in the target, so you need a sniper, essentially, some kind of sniper or a very good shot to get that lined up, and then when you face south, it should miss the target by 12 inches, right? Now that's quite a lot to miss for if you're an expert marksman, and if that's true, you know, then the Coriolis force is real. But I'm yet to see a demonstration of that, and I would happily go and meet somebody who can do that, and I would sit in on that test, and I would make sure that it was all performed properly. But obviously I don't shoot rifles, so if anybody has that ability to do that, there's a test there that's ready and waiting to prove this Coriolis force. You know, I go out and I take pictures. If you want to try and prove Coriolis, go and get your rifle out, go down to a range. In fact, when you turn up to the range, ask the guy on the range, do you have to account for Coriolis force? Is there a sign up outside the building that says, please be aware, you need to not only account for the prevailing winds, but you also need to account for Coriolis force? I would love to see that sign. If there's a sign out there, show it me. Genuinely, show it me. You know, I'm here to be proved wrong, but for all, you know, all this double speak, but there is proofs out there that can be proven. You know, it just takes somebody, a flat earther, a globe earther, whoever, concave earther, to get the rifle out and try it. It can be proved, right? Anyway, going back to the camera. This is the, you know, it's sentimental, this, it really is. It is a sentimental thing, you know, I have to say. It's proven a lot, it's taught me a lot, it's taught a lot of people about optics, essentially, and all the different effects and accounting for them and stuff. And it's going to go to a new home. Anyway, so, let's talk about the person that it's going to. Right, George Netanyahu, Ranty has become stupid again. How so? I would like you to say how I've come stupid again. we discussed this on the show about shooting north and south. I absolutely believe that that is the correct thing to do, so go ahead and prove it. Right, the P900. Okay, so there has been a flat earther out there who has wanted a P900 for quite a long time. They actually had a GoFundMe out asking for funds towards a P900. Now, I've been quite lucky in, obviously, people donate to somebody that's proven to put the time and effort in, which, you know, I've clearly done. So I was very appreciative when the community got together and, you know, paid for the P1000. So the P900 that I bought essentially is up for grabs. I haven't used this thing now for probably 2 months, so essentially it's just gathering dust, and I want somebody to go out there and make use of it. And even if they don't go out and make use of it as in proving flat earth stuff, they can go out and they can take some beautiful pictures of a country that I've never seen before. And this person that I'm going to give the camera to is Arwin. Woo-doo-doo. Arwin gets the P900, which means that essentially he can then go ahead and probably spice up his show a little bit when he does his 1 p.m. UK time early bird show. Hopefully he'll be able to show us some beautiful scenery where he lives, maybe even go and do a few tests. As I say, just do something different on his show. It would be nice to do that, and I know that he's been desperate to get a hold of this camera, so I want to give it to him, and I want him to have it by the end of the month. So if I can't make it to Holland, to Amsterdam this month, if I can't make it, I'll give it to either Sleeping Warrior or I'll post it to Nathan Oakley, and they can essentially bring it over to him when they go themselves. But either way, we will make sure that he gets a hold of this camera. So I'm happy to say that I think it's going to go to a good home. I would love to see plenty of pictures from it. I'm sure he'll make great use of it. As I say, I've got a P1000 now, so it's not as if I'm losing out any. So and it's better off with somebody that's going to go out and use it and do something with it, and it might improve his life too. You know, I mean, it'll just give him a reason to go out and do more stuff. So I'm really pleased for him. Anyway, what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah, there is one caveat though. There is one caveat with this, Arwin. And essentially this is to do with the Bible. Okay, now I was the first person to actually donate to your P900, or at the time I think it was a P1000 account, and I think I gave you like €30 or something. So essentially when you get that money out, I'd prefer if you actually went ahead and just bought that Bible, regardless of of whatever, call it me to you, and it's not going through your super chat, so it's not actually affecting you financially that way. So if you could, you'd do me a massive favour, buy the Bible. It will make Trish very happy, I'm sure, and it will hopefully draw a line under this issue that you've had about buying that Bible. So if I buy that for you through that, there can be no excuses with that. So that's the only thing I'm asking for. It's just to sort of like heal some wounds in that respect. So P900 is on the way to Arwin, and essentially that's all I've got to talk about really. Yeah, the Coriolis force, just, you know, there's people out there with these kind of guns and planes and access to all kinds of stuff that I could never get my hands on. So there is a way to prove it. We want to actually get some kind of clarity here as to what actually the real effect that's going on, you know, because we're told that it can affect a football, we're told it affects planes, we're told it affects bullets. So let's go ahead and try and prove this. Let's try and get some clarity by Christmas. I would like to do that, put a challenge out to people to go and do this. And yeah, I think that'll do. It's, yeah, I was planning for 40 minutes, it's half an hour. We've got 140 people in the chat. If anybody sees Arwin, I don't even know if he's in the chat actually. Let's see if he's in the chat. He still doesn't get a wrench though. He doesn't get a wrench. He's a little bit ban happy with the wrench when he gets it, so there's no way he's getting that. Yeah, I don't see Arwin in the chat right now, but if you do see him, let him know. I'll probably send him a message on Skype. You heard it here first. He gets his P900. Everybody's happy. And that's it. Happy days. Right, okay, so that'll do for today. What day are we on? Saturday. So I will be back. Probably, I might do a show tomorrow night after Globebusters, actually. So I think I'm going to go live with Anthony Riley. I think Anthony Riley's going to come on. I think he might have something to chat about his experience with this, the Globe Live Tour and how it went there. And maybe get a few more people in, maybe do a chit chat. Who knows? We'll see where it goes. But in the meantime, that'll be for me. And as Owen, he's just pulled in now. Arwin, really? Yes, Arwin. Yes, Arwin. This P900 is yours. Right. Okay. That'll do for now. And I'll see you all in the next one.